The phonological loop processes sound information, and in particular, verbal information. When such information is encountered, it holds on to it through subvocal rehearsal. Two components assist in this subvocal rehearsal. First, there is the articulatory rehearsal loop, which serves as an inner voice that repeats verbal information. Second, there is the phonological buffer that serves as a kind of inner ear or internal echo, which listens to the articulatory rehearsal loop. Together, these two components of the phonological loop help to maintain verbal information for short-term usage. The phonological loop can be illustrated using a simple digit span task in which the mind is presented with a list of words or numbers and is asked to repeat this information after hearing it. The phonological loop is limited in the amount of information it can hold at any one time, leading to the famous magic number of 7 plus or minus 2. This means that about 5 to 9 pieces of independent information can be held in short-term memory at any given time. So a 7-digit telephone number would be the most a person can hold at once. However, through the principle of chunking, much more can be held. So for example, 7 and 9 are two independent pieces of information that can be combined or chunked to form 79, which comes to be represented in the mind as one piece of information. Those individuals who demonstrate exceptional short-term memory often employ some kind of chunking. However, this process of manipulating information to hold on to more doesn't seem to come from the phonological loop itself, and is one of the reasons why this model of memory was deemed inadequate. A second kind of short-term memory system is called the visual spatial sketchpad or the visual spatial buffer. As the name suggests, this storage system is responsible for maintaining visual and spatial information, or what has been seen and where it was seen. Without this, it would be difficult to remember what something looks like or where it is. Similar to the phonological loop, this capacity can be demonstrated by presenting the mind with a simple set of geometric objects placed on a sheet of paper. Upon studying and then removing the figures, the individual is asked to reproduce on a blank piece of paper the objects they saw and in their correct location. Again, as with the phonological loop, this short-term memory capacity is limited in how much information it can retain at any given moment. The visual spatial sketchpad can be further divided into two components. First, there is the visual cache that stores shape and color information. Second, the inner scribe processes spatial and movement information and rehearses information stored in the visual cache. The central executive is the centerpiece of the model of working memory that came to replace the modal model. It became clear that the older model couldn't account for many empirical findings. Short-term memory was considered to be a passive storage capacity that received information from sensory memory before passing some of it onto long-term memory. The primary activity of short-term memory was the rehearsal of that information. However, a great deal more is required for this short-term memory capacity to do its job. First, it's clear that more is done with that information temporarily held in the mind than simply repeating it. One can actively manipulate that information, whether through chunking, reorganizing it to perform some mental calculation, or to retain and integrate what you're reading over the course of many sentences. This general ability to manipulate info, called operation span, goes well beyond the simple digit span task that requires straightforward rehearsal, and this represents the working part of working memory. The central executive is the flexible system that oversees these manipulations. However, it does much more than manipulate mental representations. It oversees selective attention, guiding what enters the mind in the first place. It's responsible for retrieving stored information from long-term memory and connecting it with new incoming information. It oversees the two short-term memory stores, the phonological loop and the visual spatial sketchpad, directing what kinds of information enter them and what they do with that information. Finally, it's responsible for inhibiting or suppressing information and behavioral responses. This includes distracting information coming from the outside environment, as well as distracting information that can automatically arise from the mind, such as painful memories, daydreams, and anxious thoughts. All of this makes the central executive a dominant overseer of many of the other cognitive processes, and is perhaps the most important cognitive ability related to academic and job performance, establishing and maintaining relationships, and successfully managing personal affairs. The central executive is associated with the prefrontal cortex and activates a variety of networks depending upon the specific task it's engaging in. Psychological stress has been found to reduce its performance, as can the use of drugs such as alcohol. Deficits in this ability are proposed to be the central issue in ADHD. The central executive develops later than other cognitive functions in childhood, and its emergence may be responsible for the qualitative leaps in cognitive development noted by Jean Piaget, including the transition from concrete operational stage to the formal operation stage, where abstract thought and metacognition become more salient.